The race for governor in the state of New York was not expected to be as close as it is just 4 days from Election Day. But the Republican candidate is keeping it competitive by pushing the same kind of issues other GOP hopefuls are running on all across the country. Lee Zeldin, he's a Trump and DeSantis-endorsed GOP congressman from the conservative end of New York's Long Island. I am happy to welcome New York Governor Kathy Hochul. She is running for a full term after taking over for Andrew Cuomo. Governor, thank you so much for being here. You're essentially running against yourself. People who are happy are with you. People who aren't. But a lot of people don't know Lee Zeldin.
Right.
Tell us about your opponent. What do you want people to know about this person?
Thank you, Stephanie. And this is something that needs to come out. Lee Zeldin was described by Donald Trump as a brilliant lawyer. You know why? Because Lee Zeldin had sent text messages right when the question of the presidential election was out there. He sent messages helping strategize on how to create the big lie. So you think about the architect of the big lie, absolutely undermining our democracy, as well as being out there supporting the insurrectionists, refusing to certify Joe Biden's election on the same day as the attack on our seat of our democracy. And he's so extreme, opposes women's right to choose, doesn't support a single bit of gun safety legislation, says he's tough on crime, but boy, is he soft when it comes to guns. So people need to know that's who's running for governor, trying to hide all that now. Like, oh, no, he would never do all these things. Like, come on. Voters in New York are smarter than that. So being so close to Trump, though, you got to wonder, does Donald Trump raise money for him, associate with him? I gave him a chance to say whether or not Donald Trump was a great president, and you should have seen the list of accomplishments he ticked off in our debate. So Donald Trump's probably sizing him up, saying, boy, this guy could give me a pardon if he were the governor. Think about that.
That is what I want to ask you about, because Lee Zeldin, most recently, especially in the New York City area, has kind of underplayed how close he is to Donald Trump. If he were to be elected governor, what would happen to the investigations into Trump businesses? Could they get derailed?
Absolutely.
Could Tish James get stopped?
Absolutely. Tish James is one tough prosecutor. She's a great friend, and I know she's going to go to the mat. But if there's a conviction, that's when a governor has the power to pardon or grant clemency. Donald Trump knows this because he granted a pardon to a guy who went to jail who defeated me for Congress, Chris Collins. So he knows all about how this game is played. You know, let them do what they want, their dirty tricks, get convicted, but then you got a friend in the governor's office who can pardon you. That's what Donald Trump is baking on. That's why he's so supportive of Lee Zeldin. And people need to know that close connection between the two of them. Lee Zeldin was called one of Donald Trump's earliest and staunchest supporters. That should mean something to New Yorkers.
Well, what New Yorkers care about is their health, their safety, their well-being. Crime is clearly the reason this race has gotten a lot tighter. Lee Zeldin has made it clear he would address crime by making bail adjustments and going after getting rid of Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. You do not want to do those things. What 3 things would you do, would you commit to addressing public safety? Crime is a problem here.
I'm so happy you asked me this because, first of all, he has no plan for crime. He says,
what's yours?
I'm already in the middle of executing our plan. Last January, in my State of the State address, January 5th, this is not an election conversion here. January 5th, you can go look at the records. I was talking about how people are feeling insecure. We need to reduce crime. We need to get more guns off the streets. Since I've been governor, we have 8,000 more guns off the streets. Why? Because I took my police force, state police, said we don't need to give out as many tickets. Let's get them stopping the guns from flowing into our streets. And for the first time in decades, you have a governor of New York working in partnership with the mayor of New York City. Remember all the epic battles? I mean, I said to Mayor Adams, we were in the subway together January 6th, not that January 6th, a year later, this past January 6th. And I said, Mayor, I'm here to help you. Let me help get people who are severely mentally ill out of the subways. Let's talk about getting more police officers. A couple weeks ago, we got cameras in all the subway trains. We're starting that process. So we're already executing. No governor has spent more money than I have on public safety in history.
Okay, but I'm going to interrupt you then. Here's the problem. We don't feel safe. You might be working closely with Mayor Adams. You may have spent a whole lot of money, but I walk into my pharmacy and everything is on lockdown because of shoplifters. I'm not going in the subway. People don't feel safe in this town. So you may have done these things, but right now we're not feeling good. We're worried we could be San Francisco.
We'll never be San Francisco.
Why?
Because we are already making a difference. We already have homicides and shootings down dramatically from what they had been last year, dramatically. And that's the most heinous of all crimes. There are other crimes that are up. You know what's up most? Grand theft auto. Why? Because catalytic converters, because of the precious metals, are highly valuable. So people are ripping off catalytic converters. Just a couple weeks ago, I signed into law a bill that requires the people you take the parts to identify where they came from. So if you can't prove you know the owner of the car, and we have serial numbers on it, so we're going at the criminals. There are other crimes for sure, I know, no doubt about, all over the nation. So I'm not sure how firing one district attorney in one borough in New York is going to deal with the crime issue across the state, across the nation. This is a nationwide phenomenon.
But it doesn't matter what's happening in other cities or other states. The reason people don't feel safe in New York is why they're starting to say, can Kathy Hochul be the right governor, right? It doesn't really matter what's happening in Pennsylvania or San Francisco. You need to get New Yorkers' votes, and safety is a top issue for us.
And I understand that. I took the subway this morning. I'm out there with the people. I'm talking to them. I understand this sense of anxiety. And that's why part of it has to do with getting people who are severely ill out of the subways, because you don't know if they're going to have an episode. Something happens, they push somebody. That's the fear of the unknown. We have to get them out of there. We're doing that right now. Cameras. When you're on a subway, the perpetrators now know they're being watched. There's a record of it. That's going to start having a deterrent effect. And you mentioned the bail laws. The reason the New York State budget, my very first budget, was 9 days late. I wanted it on time. But I said, I'm not leaving here until we deal with the repeat offenders you're mentioning. People keep taking things off the shelves in the drugstores every day. The bail laws now cover them. Anything with a gun, the bail laws now cover them. I gave more powers and discretion to judges and district attorneys than they had before. We made those changes in our law, but they've only been in effect a short time.
Do you think you get credit for that? Do you think that you face, whether it's conscious or unconscious, sexism by voters, especially as it relates to crime and public safety, right? New Yorkers who, are used to these alpha male, macho man governors, or political leaders here. And you are not from New York City. You're a petite, capable woman from upstate. Do you think we give you enough credit?
People don't know I'm as tough as hell. I'm from Buffalo. My father and grandfather were steelworkers. Grew up in a big Irish Catholic rough and tumble family. There's no one tougher than I am. And I've been through hell and back in this job, and I love every minute of it. But there's no one tougher than me. And if anyone thinks that I'm soft on crime, look at what we've been doing. We have been aggressive about this. And so I'm breaking the mold, perhaps. People haven't seen a governor who looks like me. I want to make sure that this becomes the norm. We have the toughness. I'm a mother. I'm actually a grandmother. So this is personal to me when people have that fear. So I have my own toughness, but also that compassion and the empathy that perhaps others don't have. That's the combination I bring to how passionate I am about solving this problem. Normally, a governor doesn't get their hands all dirty in local policing issues, right? When have you seen that before? But I've been meeting with the leaders in not just New York City, Rochester, Syracuse, convening everybody, district attorney, sheriff, U.S. attorney. What are you doing? Have you used this law? My husband was Barack Obama's United States attorney. He was a top prosecutor. I understand how this works. So people shouldn't underestimate how tough I am in my commitment to making sure our streets are safe.
You're talking being a grandmother, a mother. Women are out there voting. Daughters are out there voting, early voting. When we talk about polls, not just in New York, but across the country, we talk about these tightening polls. Are you buying that? Because last I checked, not too many people answer pollsters when they call. And given all the things that are on the line right now and the kind of people, the amount of people that are voting early, should we believe these polls?
It's so hard to know, Stephanie, because, we have so many examples throughout history. I've been involved in politics since I helped with Tim Russert. I worked with Tim Russert to get Senator Moynihan elected back in '76. So I was this nerdy high school girl who loved politics. And so I was the only woman in the room, the only kid in the room. So I know all this. So I've been following polls all my life. All I know is that toward the end, they are meaningless. They become meaningless because people aren't answering their phones. The young people don't respond the same way. I mean, the traditional ways of gauging public interests are just out the window. And I'm not sure how you really get a good snapshot other than you work your tail off. I have been in 14 elections. I always run like an underdog. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. We haven't won a Super Bowl yet. You're always hungry. You work so hard. But
does that mean if you win, you're going to jump on a plastic table in a parking lot?
I just may do that.
then let me ask. We were talking about polls. For months, Republicans have been pushing all sorts of polls and raising money off of it.
That's exactly what they're doing. All we have to do is see the name Trafalgar. It's going to show that we're neck and neck or that Lee Zeldin's beating me today. Okay. Our own polls show that that's wildly wrong, but you're making money on it. You're getting super billionaire donors like Ron Lauder to dump millions and millions and millions of dollars in negative ads against me to prop up your election because you gave them a fake poll. So, you know what? Democrats are too honest to do that. We're not playing that game. And so that's what's going on here. I think that is having an effect. But, I don't care. I'm not intimidated by them, their polls, their money. I have my faith in New Yorkers, and I know they'll do the right thing. And all I need to win on this election, Democrats turning out. We have enough Democrats, but if they get complacent and say, oh, she's fine, it's a blue state, that's when you get in trouble. We cannot let that happen. I'm calling on all New Yorkers to stand up, defend your democracy against a Trump-loving climate change denier, election denier, abortion denier, denying abortion rights. That's who's on the ballot. It's time people understand that.
Governor Hochul, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I really appreciate it.